Hey everyone, welcome to the Game Informer Show, a weekly podcast covering the video game industry. Join us each and every Thursday for a discussion of the latest gaming news, reviews, and exclusive reveals with Game Informer staff and special guests from around the industry. I am one of your hosts, Marcus Stewart. I am joined by Kyle Hilliard. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. I am not rushing to finish my Death Stranding 2 review right now, so I feel a little bit of a weight off my shoulder. That's not to say the game was bad or anything, but it's always like, you know, when you're reviewing a large game, it's always a little bit like, I gotta get through this thing.
Yeah, it's like much like Sam delivering a review. You unloaded all of your work and turned it in, and then we judged it for its quality and said, "Hey, this is pretty good. Here's your grade."
I took a shower. I've watched Sam shower so many times. I can't skip that cutscene fast enough, but you know, he's a good-looking man, so it's all good.
Yes. And joining us for the first time since we've relaunched the Game Informer show, Brian Shea. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It has been extremely hot, and I know I'm talking to somebody who lives in Florida, so I'm not gonna complain too much.
I don't want to hear your whining, Brian.
However, it was like 98 degrees on Saturday, and I hosted a party at my house, and my responsibility was to stand in front of the grill, which reached upwards of 500 degrees. So I was there for about 6 hours while it was upper 90s outside. So, yeah, it was not I was very dehydrated by the end of that day. But yeah, overall very good. You know, we have a lot of exciting stuff that is happening at Game Informer and GameInformer.com right now. And you know, similar to Kyle, I am excited because a large project is off of my plate, and that project was our cover story.
Yes, you are the man of the hour right now, Brian, because that's going to be the first thing we talk about, our newly announced cover story of Borderlands 4. You and Alex Van Aken took a trip down to Gearbox in, where are they in Texas? Is it Austin or?
Frisco, Texas, which is just outside of Dallas. I think it's technically still a part of like the Dallas metropolitan area. But yeah, it's where the Dallas Cowboys have their practice facility. I actually got a workout in at their gym.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so
how does that work?
There's like
you
a
can
place.
Just go to the
there's
gym?
A place right. It's like attached to their like practice stadium called Cowboy Fit, and you have to have a membership, but you can go in and like buy a day pass. And I got a 50% off discount, and it was like really, really nice. Like it was like a super nice gym. I went and did the cryotherapy afterwards, and realized that's not something I want to do again. Felt like
is that where you just go stand in like a really cold room for like a short period of time? Is that what that is?
I did for about 30 seconds, and I was like, nope, not for me. I did the beginner thing, and it was like, I think it said like it feels like negative 145 with a light breeze.
Oh, Jesus.
And this was fresh after my workout,
Marcus,
so I was like, nope.
Listen to this guy. It's either too hot or too cold. He just can't. It's like he can't get it, man.
It's like I thought living in Minnesota, getting used to those winters would have prepped you for that. But
I thought that too, honestly. I was like, oh, these Texans don't know cold. And then I got in there and I'm like, nope. And as somebody who has lived in both Texas and Minnesota, I've experienced the highs and lows of both places. And yeah, the weather is definitely going to give you a problem no matter where you are, depending on the time of the year.
How long were you in that room? How long are you supposed to be in that room? And is it a room?
It's like it's almost like a walk-in freezer with a window.
Okay.
And they recommended 3 to 3.5 minutes, and I went for about 30 seconds, and I was like, not for me. My cryotherapy was I went and got a smoothie.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Can we do that here in Minnesota? Like I drive by the Vikings training facility pretty often. Can you just go in there and be like, "Can I train in your gym? I'll buy a day pass."
I mean, I think that the Cowboys are just like they're just a monetization machine because like you know they have everything. Like if you go to like a Cowboys game, they have like just like the most over the top amenities from what I understand. I've never been to Cowboy Stadium, but like from what I hear, it's like one of like the more over the top fan experiences. And I am pretty sure you have to pay for each and every little perk that you want. So it would not surprise me if this is something that is like specific to the Cowboys like training facility, or maybe it's just like an offshoot of that, but it is attached to like their training facility. So yeah, it's been a fun morning there before going to Gearbox, which is why we're here.
I was gonna say,
Oh, right. Yes.
yes,
That's
yes,
important.
yes.
Did not
You
mean to
will get the
derail
train.
the entire podcast.
Yeah, you need the train
I was
to
I was
go play
fascinated by
Borderlands.
this cold room.
Well, Brian, I'm excited.
I liked Marcus's comment better. In case we talked over each other, Marcus said you had to train to go visit your
Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah.
It's a good
Oh,
joke, Marcus.
Thank you. Well, yes, I'm excited to hear all about your time at Borderlands for Studio Gearbox. Before that, of course, if you want to read this upcoming cover story, you can do so by subscribing to Game Informer magazine. How do you do that, you ask? Well, you go to GameInformer.com/subscribe, and you can sign up right now for a print issue of the magazine, not just one, but 10, sent straight to your home every month or close to every month. The magazine's bigger and better than it was before, better paper. We've got, Kyle, you know what we wrap them in now? They're like special poly bags. Have you heard about this?
I have, and it's one of the things I was like weirdly the most excited about when we were talking through all this stuff. I was like, because so often we would get emails about for the previous like issues where people would be like, my issue got messed up, and our response is always like, that sucks, man. But like we just got to talk to your mailman or something. We don't I don't know what we can do, but we have the poly bags now, which I think is going to make a huge difference. Yeah.
Yes. And of course, the membership, or the subscription, I should say, acts as a membership to the website, because not only do you get the print and digital versions of the magazine, but you also get access to exclusive web features on the website. You get fewer ads on the website as well. You get access to our entire digital archive of every magazine in Game Informer's history, just there, available for you. And of course, the best part of the whole package, 5% of every subscription goes toward St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, helping pediatric care, all that good stuff. So your subscription not only gets you access to the hottest gaming news, reviews, previews, but it's also actively helping out some very wonderful children. It's the best. And yes, so you can go subscribe now. I believe our early bird has concluded this week by the time that this will go out. So and please correct me if I get this incorrect, guys, but I believe our pricing should be back to standard now.
Yes.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, which would be for the print and magazine, or excuse me, the print and digital version of the magazine, it'll be $70 a year. But however, you can also get a digital only subscription for $45 a year, which is also great for our international readers. And yeah, it's a great way to support us directly, keep the lights on, keep us from getting blipped out of existence once again. And we greatly appreciate it. And of course, the very first issue that will be hitting your doorstep will be emblazoned with some cover art for Borderlands 4. So Brian, tell us all about it. You went to Gearbox, you played a bunch of Borderlands 4. How is it shaping up so far?
Well, first, let me tell you about this really cool freezer that I stood in for like 30 seconds.
Yeah. How'd that go?
Not well. So, Borderlands 4. The way that the series has like kind of grown with me. It's interesting because like I got into games media kind of just before Borderlands 1 came out. Like I started writing about video games in 2008, and so like I've kind of come of age with this franchise in a weird way, but like I have covered every single Borderlands game aside from I think I did a preview for pre-sequel for OXM, I think, but like I didn't cover 3 very much. And it's interesting because that is the one that like I did not really care for much. Like I loved 1 and 2, like obsessed over both of those games. Pre-sequel wasn't really for me. Tales from the Borderlands got me right back into that universe. I thought that was phenomenal, maybe Telltale's best game. But since then, it's kind of been tough sledding for me with the Borderlands franchise. I think 3 was a little bit too referential to like outside like pop culture stuff. Like it's like, okay, it's really hard to accept that this is a self-contained universe when they're referencing like memes and stuff from our world.
Yeah. Aging gracefully,
kind of,
probably.
Yeah. It was kind of charming in 2 because it was unique at the time. Like you didn't really see that often, but yeah, by the time 3 came around, I don't know, it was a little exhausting at that point. I think.
So and also like, I don't know, it almost felt like, this is going to sound very disrespectful, it almost felt like the Wii U to Borderlands 4's Switch, where it's like a half step towards what we want. And then Borderlands 4 feels like the Switch, where it was like, oh my god, this is like what they were striving for, like in some ways with their previous thing, but now they're actually giving us what we want. And what that is a giant seamless open world. So like very minimal loading screens. It's not like kind of like the hub and spoke design where it's like, oh, just a big open area in the middle, and then you go off into these tiny little corridors off on the sides, which is how a lot of Borderlands areas have been designed to this point. It really does feel like just this massive open world that has like activities scattered throughout it. The writing is a lot more. I mean, it's a little bit darker in some regards, kind of going back a little bit closer to like what Borderlands 1 was. But there's still there's just so many like hilarious moments, and like I don't know, like there were a couple moments, especially there was one with Claptrap during a side quest that I was doing, where I've never really found Claptrap super funny. I've always thought he's entertaining, but not like laugh out loud. But like there was a moment where I laughed very hard at something that happened, and then so like the traversal is also a huge upgrade. So you can still like mantle and everything like you up on ledges like you could in Borderlands 3, but now there's like you can double jump, you can glide, you can there's a grappling hook, so it's like a kind of a rope that they throw out that they can like attach to like grapple points and swing over or like kind of rappel up. And then you can also use that to grab items in the environment like explosive barrels and pull them to you and then toss them, which is really cool. And all of the Vault Hunters have 3 distinct action skills, they're called, which are basically like subclasses that like operate on a cooldown. Like so every Vault Hunter kind of has similar movement, and they can all use like guns, the guns that you pick up, which would be weird if you couldn't in a Borderlands game.
If just one of the Vault Hunters like didn't use guns.
That'd be the lot. Batman. He's a Vault Hunter now. Real quick, Brian, which Vault Hunters did you get to play?
I got to play all 4 of them. So Vex
cool.
is the Dark Siren, Rafa is the Exo Soldier, Amon is the Forge Knight, and Harlow is the Gravatar. So Rafa is kind of like more of a straightforward like soldier type class where he has his 3 action skills. One, he like kind of grows like an arm cannon, kind of like Samus, and can shoot like piercing shots, which is cool. And then he has another one that like if you activate it, it like activates like auto turrets kind of where it just automatically fires at anybody like on his screen. And then as I slam my elbow into my desk, and then
you're excited.
Yeah, I'm very excited. And then he has another one where it's like he just grows 2 blades out of his arms and goes and can do like melee attacks. So it's
cyberpunk
yeah,
style.
kind of. So they're all very distinct. I'm not going to run through all of the abilities because they all have 3. But Amon's actually he's like a 7'4" tall like Viking looking dude, and he has these axes that they make him like the most elemental character in the game, which is weird because like the Siren isn't the elemental character in this game. She has some elemental areas, but like normally the Siren is kind of like the elemental damage dealer. In this case, the Siren is actually kind of like a summoner. Like she kind of summons like these phantoms for one of her action skills, and like you can choose to have it be either a melee character that will run around and like use a lot of aggro, so like the enemies will focus on them, or you can do like a turret style phantom that'll provide like cover fire for you. Otherwise, she also has like this like cat minion that she can summon that will attack enemies and like teleport around the battlefield. But the elemental side of her is that when you switch your gun to like say I'm using incendiary ammo, that means that all the phantoms are going to have fire-based attacks. But if I switch it over to cryo, they will all have ice-based attacks. So based on what weapon you are using, your phantoms or summons will have that same element with their attacks, which is kind of
That's cool.
Yeah, so you can play with the elements a little bit that way, but Amon is way more elemental. Like he has these axes that he throws. So like that he has like a projectile where it's like he'll throw the axe, and when you bring it up like as your action skill, he holds up 2 axes. One is a fire, one is an ice axe. So you can choose which one you want to throw, and then there's kind of like one of his like passive trait is that each one of his action skills has an extra action skill looped on top of that. So his other action skill for the dual wielding axes, where he can throw one ice and one fire, is that he forges those two axes together and throws it. And on the way out, I think it's fire, and the way back, it is ice. So it's kind of like a dual element.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
And then there's another one where he has like this like flaming punch. And I think the secondary trait for that is he like can line up a wall of fire that you can run through and everything, but enemies can't run through or shoot through it. So it's like a really good like way to place down like a little bit of cover for either you, or if you're playing co-op, your teammates. And then maybe my favorite, I don't know, this is it, so I told this like, because every time I finished, they were like, oh, so what'd you think? Almost every time I stepped away from the game, I was like, I think that's going to be my main. I think that was my favorite Vault Hunter. And I wrote this in the cover story where I was like, I felt like a child, where it's like, whenever they ask you, like, oh, what's your favorite like candy? And it's always just like the candy that they ate last. They're like, oh yeah, I just had M&Ms, so M&Ms are my favorite. That's how I felt with like the Vault Hunters. Like in the past, I feel like I've always like gravitated towards like one or two of them immediately and be like, oh yeah, that's totally my guy. This, like, I could see myself playing any of the four and being perfectly happy. And the last one that I played was Harlow, and she's kind of like this tech, like kind of like tech wizard. It's almost like a Jedi, but like more technical. So
is that what was the wasn't there a class in one of the other ones like Technomancer?
Yeah, it's like a little bit different from that.
Okay.
So she has this passive trait called Entanglement, and what that does is when she uses her action skills on enemies, they become entangled. They start glowing like this rainbow, like holographic look, almost like a like a Pokemon card. And when they are in that, they kind of split damage. So like if like there's 5 enemies and I entangle 4 of them. And you entangle them through like just by touching them with your action skills. So one of hers is she can lift one enemy up almost like a Jedi, and then like slam them into other enemies or like walls or ground or whatever to do damage. But if you keep touching other enemies with that enemy, it entangles all of them. And then if you shoot them, it kind of hurts all the other entangled ones as well. So it's really good for crowd control. And then the other ways you can entangle her other action skills are like she shoots like this kind of like disco ball looking bomb forward, and it has this massive area of effect explosion, and anything that it touches, in addition to dealing damage, it also entangles. And then there's another one that's just kind of like a pulse mine that she throws on the ground and like reverberates out, and as that happens, it entangles all the enemies. So it's really, really good if like there's just like hordes of like monsters or enemies running at you. And that's good because like they've also upped the crowd sizes pretty significantly in this game. They're really making good use of Unreal Engine 5 with both the graphics look better, the world loads so much faster, and I'm sure that's thanks to like the tech of like the PS5 and Xbox Series X as well. I was playing on a PC, so I can't really comment on like the performance on the other platforms or even the Switch 2. But yeah.
Do you know off the top of your head, is it day and date Switch 2?
They're saying a later date in 20, but they're still saying 2025. So
yeah. I do think one of the highest compliments you paid to the game, Brian, like we've already said, was that you in the cover story you said, I don't know who I'm going to be playing as, which I think is like, that says a lot about the game, that like there wasn't one that you were like, well, I didn't really like this one, they were a little too technical or something like that, you know?
Yeah, and I mean the other thing is like on the other side of the spectrum, like this is an all new world, right? It's not Pandora anymore. It's not Elpis, which is the moon above Pandora, or it was above Pandora. The whole story is like at the end of Borderlands 3. Sorry for spoilers for Borderlands 3. Lilith, who was the siren in the first Borderlands.
Yes, Kate Blanchett.
Yes, Kate Blanchett has to teleport Elpis away from Pandora because it was about to like wreak havoc on Pandora, and she teleports it to it seemed like an empty part of space, but it turned out there was a veiled planet there, and it smashed into the planet when she did that, and it shattered the veil. So now like there are like people know it's there now. So that happens, and then like it causes all kinds of problems in this planet, and it turns out this planet was kind of ruled by this like dictator called the Timekeeper, who I guess has been alive for a very long time, but he values order above all else. So like he's really like controlling of the people. He's installed like these like bolts on their bodies to prevent them from disobeying orders and everything. So he's basically enslaved an entire planet, and once the moon crashes into it, it actually rains down some of like the psycho masks from from the Borderlands franchise, and one of his like underlings, the Timekeeper's underlings, picks it up and is like, "Oh, what's this?" And then they realize like, "Oh, there's more out there than just this planet," and they start questioning it. So like another faction forms called the Rippers, and what they do is they realize that they're like kind of under control of the Timekeeper by these things that are like surgically implanted in their heads. So they start ripping them out. But what that does is it often mutilates their body, but it also mutilates their mind. So they also are they can be hostile as well. So you have like those factions. There's another faction in there that I didn't really get to interact with very much. But the Timekeeper is kind of like the main villain. And the bar has always been, I think this isn't really like controversial to say, but the bar for the Borderlands franchise in terms of villains has always been Handsome Jack. And
100%.
Yeah, so like
I don't even remember the Borderlands 1 was the one I played primarily the most. I don't even remember who the
I think it was a big worm that you fought at the end. I don't know.
I think so.
So I don't know if the Timekeeper is going to reach the heights of Handsome Jack. Like that's a very high bar to set. But he does feel very menacing, very powerful, and he definitely believes in his cause. Like he thinks he is doing this planet right by maintaining order, kind of in the similar. I mean, similar like all good villains are that way. Like I mean, you know, Thanos was a great villain in Infinity War and Endgame because he believed in his cause, and like he talks about it in such a way that you're like, okay, yeah, I understand why you think that, even though it's clearly wrong.
Yeah,
like,
you could snap your fingers and create more resources. I mean, that's the other way you could go. But.
Exactly. But oh yeah,
and the eagles could fly you to the mountain in Lord of the Rings. Come on, guys.
But yeah, so like I think that the possibility is there for the Timekeeper to be an incredible villain. So I want to learn more about him. I will have an article on GameInformer.com that dives a little bit deeper into who the Timekeeper is through the words of the folks who, you know, created him. But yeah, like I didn't really encounter him like all that much. I fought one of his underlings in like a big boss battle that took like 25 minutes to finish. It was a very long battle. Oh, yeah. It was very cool too. I faced off against like one of his, like, I think he was like a scientist or something. So like I fought some of his like, I don't know, for lack of a better word, direct reports. But I did not really encounter him. There's only been a few times where like he would just like talk to me over like, I guess like headset or whatever while I'm
like
playing
Handsome
through.
Jack style.
Yeah,
just, like, taunting you over the intercoms and stuff.
Like, why do you resist? Like, you know, like that type of stuff. It's like nothing like substantial, just him kind of like pontificating. And yeah, he seems like he's going to be a very good boss or a very good like main antagonist. So I'm excited to learn more about him. Yeah, so we start off in the Fade Fields, which is very different from like a normal Borderlands like starting area because it's almost always like a wasteland when you start a Borderlands game, whether it's like sandy or icy or whatever. This is like a lush green field, and like there's all kinds of vegetation, and like it's bright and sunny. And that was intentional because they want you to get there and be like, oh, this is actually a pretty nice place. And then the more you delve into this world, the more you realize that like there's kind of like some other stuff going on, and like it really juxtaposes against like the starting area of that. That almost feels ripped from like kind of like a lot of RPGs, like where it's like, yeah, we're starting in like the beach environment or like the forest environment, and now we're going to the apocalypse environment. Okay, that's kind of how it feels, because the exclusive area that I got to play around in was Carcadia Burn, which is one of the other. After you complete a few missions, the world opens up and you can go to Carcadia Burn, or I forget what the other name of the other zone was, but I didn't get to see that one. But it's much more of like a deserty wasteland environment, and it's the Rippers that I talked about earlier that, like, you know, are the other faction outside of the Order, which is the Timekeepers faction. That's where they kind of have set up shop, is in Carcadia Burn. And the reason it's a wasteland is because when the moon smashed into the planet, it's that part of the world that it hit, so it took like the brunt of the force. So yeah, that was really fun. There's so many side things going around. Like there are Rift Champions, they're called, where it's like you'll just be going through the open world. Like they do such a good job of like, hey, here's like the mission marker. Like you can go there. Like we'll even have like they even have a little robot called Echo 4 that will like navigate you. Like it'll put like almost like Forza Horizon style, like draw a line on the road and you can follow that line. But there are so many diversions all throughout the world. So it's like, okay, well, there's this giant, like, kind of like foggy bubble in the middle of the world. And you're like, what's that? And you go in there, and there's like a world boss that you can fight in there.
Kind of like a Destiny style. Like this thing just shows up and
yeah,
like
it
like
seems
a scripted encounter, I guess. Or
it's like it seems like it is at random. I don't know like how they programmed it, but it seems like it's like, oh, one of those events is happening right there. Let me jump in, but you have to stay within the bubble. Like they won't come out of the bubble to attack you. You go into it, and like in order to stay in the encounter, you need to stay in like this little area, this radius.
Yeah, which is like a very life servicey kind of thing. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So, and then there's also like, God, what was it called? I can grab my notes here, but there's one where you are. Basically, you're charged with getting a battery to the top of this area. I think is this the silos? But basically, like, yeah, there's a battery down at the bottom of this area. You have to get it up to the top somehow. And, like, you can take it and throw it, but you can't, like, use, like, your grapple or anything or mantle while you're holding the battery. So it's kind of like a puzzle-type element of, like, all right, I've got to get this up there. How do I do that without most of my traversal skills?
Yeah.
And that for that one, I think the one that I completed, it gave me like a new skin for my my vehicle.
Yeah, because you have like little speeder bikes in this now, right?
Yeah, Digi-Runners, and they do control very similar to like how the kind of the bikes in Destiny control.
Yeah.
The Sparrows,
like
right?
more individual, right? Because wasn't it like the other vehicles in Borderlands are always like a bunch of people can load up onto them, right?
Yeah.
That's usually the
Yeah.
case.
These are
Kinda like
individual.
Halo.
At least what I saw,
Yeah.
they're individual. But yes, that is how it worked as far as I remember.
That's cool.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I completed a base that I assaulted. There's and that was where there was this guy Horace. He was like he was like one of the first battles I did. I also did the a primordial vault. So when there's this other side activity where you have to find a terminal. So like you open up the terminal and it opens up like this thing that brings you a balloon, and it pops up, and you can use that balloon almost like the launchers in like Tears of the Kingdom, because you have a glide ability and you can glide just as far as you want basically. And so what you can do is you can like grab that balloon and it'll throw you up in the air so you can glide around a little bit easier. But also, from what I recall, and this is kind of off the top of the dome, so apologies if this is inaccurate, but I think they also give you like hints or like to where vault keys are. So it gives you intel to like fragments of your vault keys, and then the vaults are kind of like these multi-stage, like almost like horde mode style, but like not with, you don't set up anything. You just get there and you're fighting waves of enemies, and you just have to survive for as many enemies as come, and then you move on to the next platform, and then move on to the next platform, and at the end there's this big like set piece boss waiting for you. I fought a boss called Inceptus, and basically he's like this kind of like giant, like almost like lizard-like creature, and he has like these giant claws that'll slash at you. He has a big tail that he whips you with. And then like I got him down. Basically, it uses all of the traversal stuff that they put in the game. It was a really good showcase for that, because like not only did you have to like double jump over the tail when he whipped, or like dodge to one side or the other for when he slashed at you, but also you had to use your grapple rope to like grab it, like almost like Spider-Man style. Like he had like these like almost like pustules, if that's the right word for it, and you have to grab those and open them up to make a point of vulnerability, and then you can shoot like the soar basically. And then when I got him down to half health, he jumped up into the ceiling and like formed a little bit of a cocoon, and then he flooded the arena with acid. And I had these like mushrooms were up on the ceiling. You basically have to grapple from like mushroom to mushroom while shooting at the thing. It was very Spider-Man-esque if Spider-Man used guns that like ricocheted when you got a headshot.
Now, when you shot the pustules, were there any quips that you remember from your characters?
Oh man, that's gonna leave a mark. I don't know. No, something like
Man,
that. I'm sure there were some
I
quips.
guess that was a sore spot. There we go. That's a free one for you, Gearbox. You can have this. It's still time.
You can have that.
But yeah, and then another thing they've done is they've added the ability to to like replay encounters without having to like do like these weird workarounds that you used to have to do. And so like you go to this like vending machine that pops up after you beat a boss, and you can just basically instantly replay it. So because it used to be
That's
you had
also
to, like,
very life servicey.
yeah, because like you can also do that to grind loot. Like the bosses obviously drop like a lot of loot. Same thing for those Rift champions I mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
They drop a lot of loot, and so like it's maybe worth it to replay that boss battle.
Yeah, so and you can just replay a boss battle like as many times as you want.
I think there is like a currency attached to it, but I think like they didn't seem to indicate that it's like a rare currency or anything like that.
Okay.
And then they've also made changes like rather than having like finding health packs or health kits in like lockers and stuff like that, now it's just a cooldown that you have. So you have rep kits, and it operates on a cooldown, and it not only heals you, but it also buffs you in certain ways. And there's different rep kits that you can equip. So, and then
Do you like that? Like, as opposed to like the lockers? Yeah, that's an
definitely,
improvement.
I definitely prefer it. And then they also made some improvements to co-op. Like you no longer have to like just spawn at like a nearby checkpoint or now you can spawn directly on your co-op partner, and you can split because it's like I said, it's a giant seamless open world, and you can explore as far away from each other as possible. And it'll only like start like auto teleporting you once somebody enters another biome. Like if you're in Fade Fields and they go to Carcadia Burn, it'll be like teleporting you in, I don't know what the countdown is, but it's like 5, 4, and you can push a button and cancel that. So it's not like automatically going to teleport you. It just like initiates the sequence, but you can stop it from doing that. So that's nice.
So you can explore separate biomes then.
It sure seems like it. Like I did not do it, but they said, oh yeah, it'll auto teleport you one. Because like I was talking to one developer and playing co-op with another, and he was like, oh yeah, hold on right here for a second. He was like telling me about something, and then he's like, all right, your co-op partner is over there, and it said like 1,100 meters away, and he's like, you could try to catch up with him, or you can auto teleport to his location at any time, which is also very cool. So you don't have to wait for like any kind of auto teleport. But they were like, yeah, you can cancel that if you want to. So it does seem like I could explore one part of the world, and Marcus, you could explore another part of the world. So that's is cool. Also very cool. They also one of the big things that they've done is if you've played Borderlands 3, like the manufacturers of the guns became even more important in that game, and basically those manufacturers have different traits. So that gives them like a more identifiable characteristic. So it's like, oh, I have this gun. That means it's gonna, ricochet. If I shoot somebody in the head, it's gonna do a crit hit. It's going to ricochet to another enemy automatically. Or this one shoots sticky bombs or something like that. Now there is a component of mixing and matching those traits. So like if you have the ricochet off the crit shots, and you pick a gun up that happens to have a licensed part from the manufacturer that does the sticky bombs, you will get both of those. It'll get the best of both worlds in that. Or this one, like, you'll be like, oh, it's this gun, but it has a licensed part from this. So you get the both of those characteristics in that gun. So it really upped the number of combinations there are. Like they have always had, I think, like over 1 billion guns in every Borderlands game, just through like procedural generation.
Yeah.
But like I think they were talking, and this I believe at one point, again, don't quote me on this, but I think they said upwards of 5 billion combinations.
That's several more billions.
That is many guns.
At least.
Yes. So and yeah, like I feel like they've nailed the tone of the writing. Again, I didn't play too many story moments, but like they definitely feel more reined in with the humor. And they kind of described it the way when I interviewed Nogoshi, the guy behind the Yakuza series originally. He explained it as like, okay, well, if you play the main critical path of the story, you will get this very serious drama type story, action focused drama, basically. But if you go off the beaten path, that's where you get the comedic stuff, like the side quests and everything. That's kind of how the Borderlands writing team explained like how they're like balancing the comedy with the kind of serious action stuff.
Okay, awesome.
But it's
Well,
still
yes.
seasoned with that humor, though. Even when you're playing the main stuff, there's still going to be little quips. There's still going to be funny moments. But yeah, the funniest moments that I experienced were definitely when I was doing side stuff.
Okay, what's a funny line that you can remember?
The Claptrap one that made me laugh, because Claptrap's always like kind of very like happy-go-lucky in a lot of ways, and sometimes a little menacing. But he was like telling me to go do something, and like I was like, I don't want to spoil too much, but I was like going from like area to area, grabbing these mementos that like I guess crashed down on Kairos, the new planet, when the moon crashed into it. And Claptrap's like, oh, I guess it's not there. And then like you killed one more guy, and I guess he drops it, and you find it, and he's just like, oh, it was there? Never question me again. Like a real deep voice. And I'm like, whoa. So that was,
right.
It was pretty funny. I don't know. Like it was just out of the blue.
Caught
Like,
you off guard.
yeah. It's completely. It's not going to do it justice when I explain it like that.
Yeah,
It's
he had to be there.
basically, yeah. The game of
You will be there in a few months.
a game of telephone with something I experienced almost a month ago now. But yeah, because I did play one day. I traveled to Novato, California before this trip to Frisco, Texas, and went to 2K's offices out in Novato, California, and played a day of Borderlands 4 there. And then 2 weeks later, I went to Texas and spent 2 whole days at Gearbox doing interviews, playing hours upon hours of Borderlands 4. And I mean, I've got to say, like I went in with caution. I was like very hesitant to like allowing myself to be excited for this game. And I stepped away being like, okay, I think they understand what they needed to do to course correct. In talking with Randy Pitchford, like I talked to him a little bit about like, what lessons did you learn from Borderlands 3? Like, where did you want to carry into Borderlands 4? And he was like, like he gave me this whole story about the reason it's called Borderlands is because it exists in between multiple things. Like, it's a shooter, but it's also an RPG. It's a comedy, but it's also a drama. So it's like all these different things that exists like in the borders between these different things. And he was like, I think that with like some of our recent games, we've gone off too far one way or the other, and we wanted to get back to that Borderlands region where it's like we are kind of like in like that gray area between those spaces. And I was like, okay, that does make sense, and that does seem to be in line with what I have experienced so far. And I've got to say, like, it has made me feel the excitement that I felt when like Borderlands 2 was coming out, where I was just like, okay, yeah, a sequel to a game that I absolutely adore is coming out. And everything I've seen has told me it's going to be amazing. And I think Borderlands 4 is, up there with my most anticipated games for the rest of this year.
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
No, that's impressive. Yeah, because I mean, I like you said, it's not like you went in there expecting to be blown away or walk out with like, I'm really looking forward to this now. You were just like, yeah, let me see what this is. Let me see what Borderlands is today. And like, that gives me that makes me optimistic too. Because I'm not really a big Borderlands guy, but like I did play 1. And I liked 1 quite a bit, but then I kind of fell off on 2, and I don't think I ever even booted up 3. But like, those games are cool. I'm always open for an excuse to revisit them.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Like, I love 1 and 2. The other ones just didn't hit the same way. It's been very hard for me to get excited for a new Borderlands, like since 2, pretty much. But yeah, hearing your enthusiasm for it is definitely like I was just kind of like indifferent to 4 up until this point, pretty much. But yeah, I am more likely to give it a shot now. It does sound like they're doing some cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it, and it was fun because like I also got to know a lot of these developers, and like most of them have been there for like at least a decade, if not more. Like the creative director was like a level designer on Borderlands 1, and like the art director has been there like working at Gearbox since before Borderlands 1. Like he was involved with like the art direction change and everything like that. So like it's really, really like they have that institutional knowledge that I think that like a lot of studios unfortunately don't have too much of these days, with like the state of the industry and everything, where it's like people being, laid off, studios being closed. Gearbox has been around for a while now, and a lot of their more senior people have been there for almost as long as the studio's been open, at least as long as they've been working on Borderlands. But there's also a fair injection of newer talent as well that I was able to talk to. So it's cool to get both sides of that, of like some of the people being like, oh yeah, like I got into the industry because I loved playing Borderlands 1 and 2 when I was like in high school, and now here I am working at the studio. And then like, other people, it's like, oh yeah, I was the reason that we changed the art style, or I worked closely with Randy when we were changing the art style for Borderlands 1. And, you know, if you don't know the story behind that, I will have a story on why they did that. If you recall, Game Informer actually had Borderlands 1 on the cover back when it had a completely different art style. It almost looked more like, I would say, like closer to what Rage was. Like if you looked at like id Software's
Mad
Rage.
Maxy.
Yeah. So it was like a kind of more a straight-laced style, which I don't think would have gelled well with the writing and like tone of the game overall. It was called Pandora originally, and they changed it to Borderlands before they launched and when they changed the art style. And I talked to Randy, I talked to Graham, who's the creative director of Borderlands 4. I asked him the little tease was I was like, hey, what was your thought when, like, you know, Randy came in the room and was like, hey guys, I know we're like getting closer to finishing this game, but we have to change the entire art style. And his first answer was, and I'll censor myself here, effing insane was what he thought of that decision initially. But now he's like, yeah, it's absolutely the right choice because, like, look at where the series is now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll have a story on that in the coming weeks as well over on GameInformer.com. Got some other more in-depth stuff on like the Timekeeper, stuff on the seamless open world, in-depth hands-on impressions of all of the Vault Hunters. So lots of exclusive coverage coming this month to GameInformer.com.
Awesome. Yes, keep an eye out for that cover story when it hits those mailboxes. Thank you so much, Brian. And moving on, Kyle Hilliard. For a long time, I was the coolest person in this office because I'd gone to Kojima Productions and played 30 hours of Death Stranding 2 for a big preview event, and I knew so much about this game that you guys didn't know, and I could flaunt that on you. But you have, much like Sam Porter Bridges, you have ascended the mountaintop and have kicked me off of it because you have finished Death Stranding 2. You know way more about it than I do now at this point. And you have posted your review.
I know it all.
Yes, you know the secrets of the beach and the dooms and the chiralium and all the other weird words that are in that game.
APAS and APAC and the UAC. Yeah, all that stuff. Lots of acronyms in that game.
Hung out with a talking doll and a mannequin for hours and hours.
I know why that guy that Hideo Kojima insists is important and keeps showing us. I know why he's important.
All right. Well, tell us all about it. Death Stranding 2, your review now live on the site. What did you think of the game? Where are you at with it?
Which, by the way, Marcus, you're still cooler than me, just like in general.
Yeah, I was actually going to point that out, that Marcus is in fact cooler than Kyle.
Oh, thank you so
and
much.
you've also, hung out with Hideo Kojima in his purgatory room with a statue.
I think hung out, I think it's maybe being generous.
Stood next to him for a photograph.
Yeah. How is that room truly as bright as it looks in the picture?
It is blindingly bright, especially because the rest of the office is pitch black, like black walls, black carpet, black doors. So when they do the double door reveal, it is literally like you have stepped through the gates of heaven and your soul is being cleansed as you step into the room.
So it's like whenever a game, when like a video game has it, so like the door opens and like it's outside and there's like that white effect for a second while your eyes adjust.
Yeah, I was literally like for the first few minute, I was squinting my eyes standing in a room like we were outside. It was very much like, this is brighter. This is even brighter than it looks in all those pictures and videos.
Yeah. I know we're spending a lot of time talking about rooms that we entered before actually talking about the thing people want to hear about. Like that's kind of the theme of this episode.
Yeah.
Brian going into the cold room, Marcus going into the white room. You have to go into that room to enter Kojima Productions, right? Like that is that like the entrance?
It's not the lobby.
No, okay.
No. It's like its own.
All right.
It's like down a hallway, but you do have to go to it. There are secret doors to get to like 2 secret conference rooms that are like basically the same but different colors and maybe slightly different furniture. And according to the tour guide, they were just saying like it's just kind of mood based, whatever one Kojima wants to use for like a meeting or if he has to take a call with some celebrity he's trying to scan into the game. He's like, yeah, this is the white lounge room. This is when he's just feeling contemplative today or something. We'll come in here and we'll do our thing. But on the other side, there's a black one, and that's when he's in a different mood. And it's like
that's the room he goes to when he tries to figure out how many things the word chiralium can be applied to, and it just sort of like wave off.
It's just
like,
him with
it's
a
chiral.
a
It's
notepad just writing down every variation of chiralium.
chiral network, chiral animals, chiral.
I am so happy that he is as enigmatic as he is to us, to his employees. Like, it sounds like they're like, yeah, Kojima's doing Kojima. Like, let him be.
Yeah. But yes, Death Stranding 2. Is this a good game? With all of the weirdness they get into it, is this a good game, Kyle?
Yeah, I like Death Stranding 2 on the beach. I gave it an 8.75, which the way I described it when Matt Miller most recently asked me is like, yeah, where'd you land on that? It didn't quite crest. Once you hit that like 9 sort of zone,
right.
You're like, this is like, they're knocking this out of the park. I have very little complaints. I was enraptured the whole experience. Like, I was just south of that.
You're saying
with
like
Death Stranding
it was
2.
almost a 9, but then you lost your balance and sort of tilted to the right and sort of like stumbled and fell a little bit.
And just tumbled and lost all my packages. Yeah. Death Stranding overall is kind of it's an odd one for me. Like, I love Hideo Kojima. I'm part of the problem, I like to say. I know that people have their qualms with him, and it's like there's also that issue of like him being like a self-proclaimed kind of auteur, and arguably not giving like the larger team enough credit, because he does work with writers and stuff like that, and obviously these games wouldn't exist without a larger team. Like, I totally agree with all that, but like there's like a tone, there's an emotion that comes from a Hideo Kojima game, and I love it. Like, I love the Metal Gear Solid series. I said as much in my review. Like, Metal Gear Solid 2 is like not even just like one of my favorite games, but like one of my favorite pieces of fiction. Like, truly, like, I just adore that game so much. And like, it kind of perhaps unfairly made me go into Death Stranding 2 with really high expectations, because it's like, they are good at sequels. They are good at iterating on like a core idea and then like twisting it on its head and like really surprising you in unexpected ways, which was kind of like, that's what Metal Gear Solid 2 is. It is a game about being a sequel, and also about just playing with your expectations to no end. Like, every hour in that game is like making you like suddenly be like, oh my gosh, what is happening here? And I didn't really get that from Death Stranding 2, right? It is iterative on the first game, in surprising ways. Like, there are, the sequences where you are. Gosh, I'm trying to be careful with spoilers for both games, but there's those sequences where you kind of you leave the world in the first game, and you're fighting. Marcus, help me. The actor's name who.
Troy Baker's.
No, not Troy Baker.
He's talking about not Solid Snake?
Yes, yeah.
The headband guy.
Guys, yeah, why can't I think of the actor's name? You guys know who I'm talking about?
I don't know. I do not know his name. Yeah.
I'm talking about it in the first game.
Oh, in the first game. Okay. I think talking about the second game. Wait, hold on. Mads Mikkelsen.
I'm losing my mind.
Mads
He's
Mikkelsen?
in the Hitman game now. Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, Mads Mikkelsen.
There we
That
go.
was what I was
not.
So I actually have not played Death Stranding 1, and I haven't played Death Stranding 2. I knew Mads Mikkelsen was in the first game, and I almost shouted that out, and then I was like, no, I'm going to let the people who know what they're talking about talk, so I could have saved us
You would have
more
saved
time.
us. But
Mads
I
Mikkelsen is
think,
always the right answer, Brian. Just shout it out whenever you're in doubt. When you know something, just say his name.
Obviously.
But he, like, those sequences in Death Stranding 1, I think most people consider to be kind of a weaker part of the game, gameplay-wise. Yeah. When you go and you have to sort of face Mads Mikkelsen's character. And there's a lot of interesting story, implications that come from all those sequences. And I was surprised when Death Stranding 2 actually has like a new version of that, right? Like, it's like an iterative version of that where it's like, oh, I'm kind of doing this again with different characters. Okay. Like, I was sort of surprised by that. And like, the sort of structure of doing deliveries and stuff feels very similar, but is improved in many ways.
Can I also real quick, the first, again, without spoiling, the first instance of doing the thing you just described where you go to a different place to deal with a person is incredible. Like, it's the only one that I saw during my 30 hours preview, but it's like visually and presentation wise, it is like unbelievable.
It's very
now,
cool.
Let me ask you
and
this. So
like,
when you're talking about that, and you may be able to get into this a little bit more once we talk more, but is this the game that's going to make people want to upgrade to a PS5 Pro?
I played on a standard and I thought it looked amazing.
Yeah, it looks. The
Yeah.
preview was on a standard PS5 too when I went to the office. Yeah, it looks and runs great. Well, it's the Destin engine too, which powers the Horizon games, and those look fantastic on base PS5s.
Okay. Well, the game opens in a way that's very like, and there's in the beginning, it actually has real life footage, right, of like environments that look like they could belong in Death Stranding, and the transition into gameplay is like barely noticeable. Like it took me a minute to be like, wait, is that real footage? Wait, is this gameplay? And it takes a second to realize in a complimentary way that it's like when you shift over to gameplay. Like the game looks amazing. I mean, to answer your question, Brian, I guess the answer is no, because like it looks great on PS5. That's how I played it.
Yeah, even on performance mode, which is what I personworally recommend playing, because you get the smooth 60. Yeah. But like, at least for me, the like graphical quality like takes a minor hit. Like I think it's worth switching to that just to get the extra frames.
You're among friends here with that, Marcus, because Kyle and I think, are very aligned on that as well. Like it's almost always worth doing performance mode over like the textures.
I'll always go performance, absolutely.
Yeah, screw those textures. What we say.
Yeah, who needs textures? Yeah, but yeah, I mean, you've got me on like another sidetrack here, like thinking about how visually interesting that whole sequence is, Marcus. That you'll see when you play the game, when everyone will see. But like, that's a big thing about this game. Is like, it's so imaginative and dreamlike in its like visuals. Like it doesn't really, and they do define things, right? It's not like I'm not like waving my hand and be like, this doesn't make any sense. The weird thing about Death Stranding is like characters just monologue at you endlessly and explain everything about its world, to the point where it's like, I would argue that Death Stranding is actually like, it's not that it's easy to understand, it's just that it's like they just tell you everything. And especially now that you have the resource where you can like read everything that you've like maybe potentially
you got like the interactive encyclopedia that they basically took from Final Fantasy 16's like,
it's taken,
which is a good idea.
Absolutely. But, yeah. Like every time someone would say a word that maybe you like, it's like I kind of vaguely remember that. It would be like, do you want to like read about that word? You can hold down pause now. And I took advantage of that almost every time. Like it was nice to just get a little thing. But yeah, so it didn't feel as different from Death Stranding 1 as I expected, which was maybe an unfair expectation on my part. It does feel iterative in a way, but like everything is like better, right? Like I think the package delivery feels better. I like Australia more than the United States. I think it's like easier to travel through. You get a vehicle very quickly in Death Stranding 2, and like I rarely traveled on foot again after that point.
Yeah.
Which is like, I think it's just kind of a choice that you can make, because I mean the game is very much designed around like you can walk everywhere, and that's part of the fun of like building ladders and like pulleys and stuff. But it's like you can also just get on a motorcycle and just drive there quicker.
And the game's not stingy about vehicles either. Like they're like, no, we're not going to be like, you should be walking. Really, it's like, no, you want a big old truck? Here, have all the trucks you want.
So Kyle,
I mean, there's a lot of missions.
Let me ask you this. I know you and I have a shared love for Breath of the Wild. When you play Breath of the Wild, because I've heard some people compare Death Stranding 1 to Breath of the Wild in terms of like the exploration and everything, how do you get through the world in Breath of the Wild? Do you walk or do you ride a horse?
I teleport.
But like you don't like if you're just like, if you're exploring, do you like walk and run around or do you get on a horse?
No, I rarely used a horse.
Same. Okay.
Same. And a lot of it is just because the horse controls aren't super great compared to other games.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I probably
no, Marcus. They don't hit trees. I don't know if you know that. They're very smart.
Oh, okay.
They're geniuses. That's a very old reference to like a version of Breath of the Wild that doesn't even exist.
Three
anymore.
People understand that reference. I'm one of them.
One of them is Miyamoto.
One of them is Miyamoto. One of them is Aonuma. The other one is me.
You know, it's interesting that people compare it to Breath of the Wild, because I really wouldn't, because it's like it's so point A to point B, right? Like, and it's like it's. To go off and explore, you don't really get a lot from doing that. Like, if you stray from your path, there's not a ton of reason to do it other than to maybe find packages that you could deliver somewhere else. So I don't know if that comparison holds up to me, other than it's like an open world and you have a lot of weird tools that you can use to get through it in different ways, however you want. But like a lot of the time, it's like, you're barely making it to your destination, right? Like the battery's almost out on your car, or your robot legs, or your shoes are running out. And like I did, like much less so in Death Stranding 2 than 1, I would still hit points where I was like, one of the ones that really frustrated me was I was driving a car through a river, which wasn't very deep, this is on me, but my battery died in the middle of the river. And so like what I had to do was like, okay, I got out of the vehicle and it was like, walking through the water, and I got to the coast and I set up a battery so I could charge my car. But because my car was in like the middle of the river, I just had to lay down on the ground and rest. And I literally walked away from the system for a while so that the solar panels on the car could recharge enough just for me to back up and like recharge my car. And those moments were kind of like, that's just kind of annoying. Like, it's not really fun or makes it more like intense. It was just kind of obnoxious.
Interesting.
But then you do also have those moments where it's like, where you do like your battery barely makes it to the destination. And it's like, I had a couple of just amazingly close calls, and I was just like, man, this does feel good. And you're like covered in dirt and blood, and you drop off that package and you go take a shower and you rest, and then you're back at it again. It's like those moments feel really good and cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say I almost disagree, but it's a personal taste where like the times where I had when I was playing the preview build, I had a similar instance where I crashed my truck and it got stuck on some rocks and I couldn't dislodge it, and it had a bunch of stuff in there. So I was like, I need to go get a tool to get these out. And I kind of liked, and also it ran out of battery, so I needed to rest first. And I kind of like find that charming, because there's something about like the delivery boy fantasy of like, things like this are going to go wrong, and you just kind of have to either deal with it,
improvise,
but like improvise. And it's like a vibe. Whereas like I kind of like just sitting around here and just waiting for the sun to go up and waiting for my thing to recharge, and then I'll keep resuming. Like, but I think you also have to be like, if you're not in a big rush, like this is a game that is like, and I don't know, you had to play it for a review embargo, so you kind of have to keep things moving. But I think if you don't have that over you, I think it's one of those games where like, I think you do yourself a disservice if you try to just blow through it, because I think a lot of the best feeling of the game in between the crazy story moments and the cool like firefights are just like vibing in the world. Like, I'm just gonna put some Woodkid on my sound little playlist. I'm just gonna take my time just getting through this world. I'll get to my destination when I get there, and whatever weirdness happens along the way happens, And I kind of like that.
I'm just not really that kind of player, though.
Sure.
You're right. Like, it is just kind of player preference and personal. Like I kind of approach every delivery like, I gotta get this pizza to this like this cartoon scientist lady. Like, if she doesn't get this pizza, like the world is like literally, we're gonna go extinct. Like, that's kind of the stakes of Death Stranding.
It's a really important pizza. You don't understand.
Like, genuinely, extinction events are like right around the corners. Like, but I mean, there is like undeniably those moments where like the music swells and you're like just walking up to these like really beautiful sort of settings, and it's like that game. The mood of that game is crazy. The like the vibes of it, the design of everything. It's just like, it feels like almost like a music video or something, where it's like it's just really interesting visuals for the sake of interesting visuals, and like I think it really is cool. And that's to say, like, there's a big improvement over sort of the mechanics of Death Stranding 1, in my opinion, right? Like, I think the game is a little, like, easier. I think it's, like, more fun to play. It's, like, there's less hurdles in your way to get those things done, which I like. But in a weird way, I think some people might see it as, like, the hard edges being shaved off of Death Stranding, but I quite appreciated it.
Yeah.
And then the sort of, like, I don't know, my negativity starts kind of with the story. But not to the point where I'm saying, like, I wouldn't say it's like bad or not engaging, right? Like, the sort of the narrative of the game is still much more interesting than, I mean, bluntly, like most video game stories. Like, there's just a weird universe that's been established here, but it's weird in a way that it's like, it makes sense until there are occasions where it doesn't, and it really does feel like it's just being weird for the sake of being weird.
Sure.
Which is like, Metal Gear has a lot of weird stuff in it, but the thing I've always loved about Metal Gear is that, like, there's almost always some kind of explanation for why there's a reason there's a vampire in Metal Gear Solid 2.
Yeah, but is it a good explanation?
I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it exists, right? But there were at least, and like I'm excited to have like spoiled discussions with people in the future. I'm not going to spoil any story stuff for Death Stranding 2 here, but there are at least like 2 or 3 moments where I'm like, let's talk about this, and you and I try to figure out why this happened this way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm looking forward to having those discussions. And there's a lot of like big twists and revelations that just didn't do it for me, really. You know? And I was like, there's some cool ones, and like I really like the last couple hours of the game. The last couple chapters are really engaging and like just visually really impressive, and like I was joking with Brian as I was working on the review. I was like, yeah, here's where I feel about it right now, but I haven't gotten to the ending, and Hideo Kojima is really good at endings. So like we'll see how this goes, and like Death Stranding 2 has a great ending, like which isn't very surprising. But I just never felt quite as like surprised or emotionally invested as I did in previous Kojima games or even Death Stranding 1.
Sure.
If I'm being honest. But there is some really great stuff, and like also like performances are kind of inconsistent from the actors, because there's this weird thing where there's like they have actors like Ellie Fanning, and of course, you know, the Leah Leah Seydoux. They're sort of captured for the game, and they're doing the performances, and those characters are good. But then they have someone like George Miller, who they scanned, you know, the director of Mad Max. He plays like a primary character in the game, but his performer just feels not, I mean, I don't mean to be rude, but it just like doesn't live up to the other actors in the scenes usually.
Sure.
Right? I don't know if it's because of that separation where they're having an actor portray, you know, someone else visually and it just doesn't fit, or what.
No.
I feel kind of the same about Dead Man as well. Even in the first game, I kind of felt that way. Who was like Guillermo del Toro's body with someone else's voice.
Yeah, like that's what I like. Does it sound like George Miller? Have you listened to like interviews with George Miller? And
oh yeah, no, they got like an Australian, because George Miller is a really fascinating guy that I adore, and I was really excited to see him in the first trailer. I was like, oh my god, that's George Miller, because he's like this like. He's like a former doctor turned film director. He's like, everyone who has ever talked about him says he's a real sweetheart. And like, he's just this kind of like grandfatherly figure. Like you always see him in interviews. He's wearing like glasses, and he always has like the chain like around. Like he's always had that like his whole life.
Well, it's like,
and like they have an Australian actor playing him, or there's someone who's doing a pretty good Australian accent maybe. But it just there's a disconnect there that I just kind of pulled me out.
Yeah, I mean, because like I've interviewed Sam Lake multiple times. I've had lunch with him when I was at Remedy for the Control cover story. I've had a drink with him after the Game Awards. So like I've had multiple conversations with Sam Lake in person. So when I play Alan Wake 2 and I see Sam Lake in that game, but you know, or I play Max Payne 1 or 2 and I see Sam Lake in that game, and a different voice is coming out of his mouth, and it's not even like a Finnish accent. It is just like a flat out American accent. It's like, wow, that's jarring. So I didn't know if they just tried like a completely different voice, or if they went for something that was approximating what George Miller sounds like.
They tried to find someone, and they did the same for Guillermo del Toro. And you know, honestly, I mean, this is a whole separate conversation, but I don't really love in Alan Wake how they have voice actors and performers, and then they mesh the performance. I don't really like that either. I don't think that really works.
Sure.
But yeah, then there's stuff. I mean, I don't like Higgs in Death Stranding 1. I think Troy Miller is an amazing actor.
Troy Baker.
Troy. This is Troy Baker's character. I think he's a fantastic actor, and I even think his performance as Higgs is good. He makes some really strange choices for Higgs that I'm sure Kojima was like, "Yeah, let's do it," you know. But he doesn't. I don't like him.
It's like, at least he's like, I mean, I don't know. You've seen more of him. I was like, I could not stand him in the first game. I just thought he was just insufferable and also just not interesting. Whereas in this game, at least from what I saw of him during my preview, but I was like, well, at least they just went crazy and were just like, what if he's just a weird cyborg, like ninja clown guy with a guitar? And it's like, maybe just the sheer silliness of it will just carry it forward. It's like, yeah, that is, I guess, more interesting of a, at least surface level wise, like villain to deal with. But
it's a note that I've always that you gave me once, Brian, that I've totally. I think maybe Joe might have given it to you, but sometimes the word interesting just means like you just don't want to say the word bad. You know?
Sure. I mean,
it's just a way to kind of be like, it's like, I don't have anything good or bad to say, but I don't, you know, so it's like, I'll just say interesting. And that's kind of how I feel about Higgs, man. Like, I just don't, I feel similarly about him as I do in the first game, but there's more to the game than Higgs, right? There's a lot more going on than him.
That's good. Do you like the, before we wrap up, the other big thing with this game is just the combat improvements. How did you feel about fighting in Death Stranding 2 compared to the first game.
Yeah, it felt a lot better. Like those Mads Mikkelsen sequences that we're kind of talking about, you know, which have, there's a version of those in the new game. Those are a lot more fun and interesting. Getting stopped by, you know, the evil porters or whatever you want to call them, or like coming across their locations, is a lot more like it's less of a burden, because in Death Stranding 1 you're just like, oh, I gotta deal with this again.
You can't even kill anyone in the first game.
Yeah, in 2 it's like it's a lot better. Like none of the guns kill people, like, which is just text, right? That's just like coloring that they just write in there. But it just makes, it's just a little thing that's like, okay, well, all right, then now I feel like I can just unload and have more fun. And there's just a lot more options. It feels close. It's not as high bar as Metal Gear Solid 5, right? But it's at least closer to that in the sense that like you have a lot more tools and combat options and things like that. But I still just enjoyed kind of going in guns blazing all the time, and I had a good time doing that. Like, it was fun, and like and fighting the sort of the bosses and stuff that like will pounce on you in the middle of a delivery and stuff. Like, that stuff's a lot more fun too, because the guns just feel a lot better. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's like mechanically, I think it's like it would be really hard for me to ever go back to Death Stranding 1. But and so like there's definitely improvements there. The sort of the shortcoming for me is like, though I like the narrative and I look forward, I'm going to be thinking about it for a long time, and I look forward to sort of the larger discussions about, you know, what it's trying to say and what are the potential meanings and like the weirdness of it all. It did underwhelm me a little bit, sort of the narrative and the big moments and twists just did not like hit super hard for me. But yeah, I gave it an 8.75. You can read the review on the website right now. I like it. I do like it more than the first one for sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Not the story though. Wait, I'm trying to think back. What did I say? I do prefer Death Stranding 1's story, but mechanically I prefer Death Stranding 2. And the stories, there's a lot of fun stuff in Death Stranding 2 for sure.
Awesome. Well, yeah, go check out Kyle's review on GameInformer.com right now. Real quick, because we promised this last week, I've been playing, I guess for the last few months, really, Lost in Random: The Eternal Die, which released last week. This is the sequel to Lost in Random, which was a third-person, like, kind of supernatural, almost like Tim Burton-y adventure game.
Yeah, it looks cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys ever play it? I never finished it.
No, I never played it. Dice scare me. I don't want to throw dice.
That's a good bit of lore to find out about you. Yeah. So this is I don't know if maybe you'll like this one better, because it is a completely different game in almost every way. It's a completely different developer this time around. And instead of being like the first game was a lot more of just a traditional third person sort of like action adventure game that kind of blended card based combat with dice rolls, because you had a sentient dice buddy that you could throw and like basically do different effects depending on what you roll. Now it's basically at Hades. It's
all
like
right.
The game Hades. Yeah. Which I hate to sound reductive like that, but it really is like, you know, like I think the preview I wrote like a month or so ago, I called it like the Hades effect of like that game has been around long enough now where we're seeing a lot of its best ideas sort of like appear in other roguelikes, whether it's like how they tell their story or just the sort of like the boons that Hades does, like using that as sort of like a template for how they dish out powers. I think Lost in Random: The Eternal Die is one of the more sort of like, I guess like blatant sort of like examples of like, yeah, we really like Hades. And not necessarily in a bad way. Like it is, so the premise of the game is that it's technically built as a standalone sequel, but you're playing as the antagonist from the first game, Queen Alexandra, who gets betrayed by the Black Dice and is turned into a child. And so, but she also has her own dice buddy named Fortune. And you're pretty much just trying to like regain
Fortune from Metal Gear Solid 2?
Yes, she's back. As a dice. It's
different character. It's just yeah, this is ironic.
Yes. And you're just trying to kind of reclaim like everything that you've lost. So you're going on, it's like this isometric, you know, top-down view. You're going around these like the villain you're fighting has kind of dropped you in this ever-shifting sort of like world that challenges you, that kind of like contextualizes why it's a roguelike thing, that like, oh, every room changes, you go every time you do a new run, and the enemies will respawn. You're fighting the bosses over and over, like and it's doing the Hades thing of like in between runs, you're going back to a central hub called a sanctuary where you're filling it out with these characters that you're meeting during runs. Some of them are from the first game, most of them are brand new, and you're getting like bits of new story every now and then when you talk to them. And then every time you reach a boss that you've beat before, there might be some new dialogue exchanges where you're like, oh yeah, I'm back. I remember when we fought last time. And I would say, like, to its credit, the combat and the movement feel pretty good. Like, it's very quick. You're like zipping around, just like doing hack and slash combos with your sword. Kind of like the first game, you're throwing the fortune, the dice buddy, at enemies. And the big difference is, like, instead of having all of your combat options dictated by cards, instead the cards are now basically serve as the sort of like perks or boons where you can only have one card at a time, and they each just have a specific effect of like, oh, now you can activate a separate attack that lets you shoot fireballs, or you have lightning powers now. It's just sort of just like you have one powerful attack that can be upgraded over time, and you can switch out cards as you find them, but you can only have one. I'd say like it feels good to play overall, but it does feel like I'm a huge Hades fan. Like the first game was my game of the year when it came out, and I've loved what I've played of Hades 2, which is still in early access right now. I've not beaten or even gotten like totally halfway through Lost and Random: The Eternal Die, but it does feel, I guess, like lacking compared to how much sheer content there is in the Hades games, of just like all the insane amount of power-ups and weapons and also like story stuff, like just the sheer amount of just dialogue and conversations and just like sort of like story moments that you can find. There's a bit of that in this game, but it just feels like maybe like a degree or two less, just because of like the game just has a smaller scope, which is fine. But I think if if you're coming from Hades to this, you might feel like, oh, this doesn't feel like nearly as robust as what I'm used to playing that game. The thing that I think is the most unique about it is sort of there's I don't remember what they call it, but there's a progression system where you're finding these sort of like relics, and they basically like boost up your abilities. And the way you do it is that you get these relics, and they're all color coded, and you're placing them on a board, like a grid. And you're basically, when you get one, you don't like immediately get the ability. You have to do like a match 3 where you have to find 2 more relics of the same color and do like either 3 across or 3 horizontal. And when you match them all up, you get all of the sort of perks tied to those relics. And so since they're being doled out randomly, you're kind of having to try to decide what you want to hold on to, of like, okay, I've got 2 red. I should probably get the next red if it comes up, but if it doesn't, and I get like maybe the next best one I have is a yellow, maybe I should put the yellow further down the grid so it doesn't get in the way of the match 3 I'm trying to build with my reds. But then some of them are dual colored, so you can like work on 2 different types of power-ups at the same time if you match them correctly. Like that's like that's a pretty cool thing. Like I'm still like wrapping my head around it, but like just sort of the strategy of trying to plan ahead and sort of create like somewhat of a specialized build of your character just based on sort of like the luck of the draw of whatever you get with which colors, which hasn't been too, I guess, disruptive, maybe because there's only like four or 5 different colors. So it's like you don't really go too long before you find the one that you need, but just long enough to where you do have to make adjustments if you're just getting every other color but the one you're trying to get. And then maybe you'll match up and wind up creating a different build than the one that you were gunning for originally, which might still be fine. But other than that, it's been, for me, like, it has been a, like, totally fine and competent, like, action roguelike that maybe this might be an indictment or a compliment. I guess it depends on how you want to take it. Like, it feels like an appetizer because I'm not playing Hades 2 right now. Like, I've played enough, and I'm just sort of waiting for it to go 1.0 before I really dive back into it. But in the meantime...
It's like a good appetizer, though, right?
It's like, oh, this is like... Here's, like, just a finished one of these that is totally, like, it's fun on its own merits. It's it does not hit so far the heights that Hades does, but it's doing like enough of what that game does well to sort of still be like an enjoyable time. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like, oh, this is totally solid, like little weird shakeup for this series.
Well, the good news is that I don't know if you saw the news last week, Marcus, but Hades 2 is like kind of in the final phase of development before 1.0.
I believe that. I did not see that. That's good to know. I mean, they said that was coming out. Or at least implied that it would be out before the end of the year, right?
Yeah, and it seems like they're like, yeah, we're getting ready to like basically launch this thing, is what they were saying.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Soon, hopefully.
Lost in Random fans, I guess. But yes, that's awesome. Yeah, and Lost in Random: The Eternal Die is out now. It launched last week on pretty much everything: PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. But yeah, I think it's worth checking out if you're maybe need something in between waiting for Hades, or if you just want like a totally solid action roguelike.
Awesome.
But yes.
Cool.
Real quick, before we wind down the show, Brian, I want to talk to you about the Switch 2, because I heard that you like Nintendo.
Yeah. I mean, there are maybe
mild
podcasts,
interest in it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some evidence to suggest that I keep up with the comings and goings of Nintendo as a company. So I have been playing a lot of Switch 2.
Yes.
Not as much as I would like to, because I've been busy with life and also a review game. I've been playing the Altars for review and have been getting stuck on multiple game-breaking bugs. So that has been
we'll have to have you back. Yeah, no, we want to talk about it this week, but to save time, we'll have to have you back on when you finish your review and get your complete thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my second progress stopping bug to be resolved. So, so that TBD on the Altars review. But in the interim, I am playing a lot of Switch 2. Mario Kart World, fantastic. I think that game. I don't know if it's quite enough to usurp Mario Kart 8 Deluxe as the best Mario Kart game. I think the free roam stuff is a little bit lacking, but like the courses themselves are top tier. Rainbow Road is, I think, the best Rainbow Road ever.
Yeah, I still haven't played it. I still have not gotten to it. I've been working my way through the Grand Prix, but I guess I haven't gotten to the Cup with Rainbow Road yet.
You do have to unlock it,
yeah,
right? I just kind of was doing it anyway.
It's not like in the existing.
Yeah, you unlock
Cups?
it. You unlock the special cup after you beat the other Grand Prix.
Oh, okay, good to know. I think I have 2 left. So
okay, so yeah, that Rainbow Road is phenomenal, and the music itself, though, might be my favorite part of this game. Which
it's a great soundtrack.
Sounds like maybe I'm like kind of docking the rest of the package, but like no, the music is that good that like I don't know if there's going to be another game that comes out this year that I'm going to like the music as much. And there's been some good music so far this year.
Just because you haven't played Death Stranding 2.
Yeah, hey, can you listen to Woodkid when you're doing Knockout Tour?
I mean, I'm sure you could, but like you just have to have your phone set up instead of. But yeah, like I'm really liking that. I thought that coming into the Switch 2, I was going to be like, because I've been itching for the past few weeks to play Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, like replay them. And I thought for sure like that would be the thing that I would do with my Switch 2. But what I'm finding myself doing instead, outside of Mario Kart World, is starting a replay of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And that is because Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom ran fine on the Switch 1. They run better on Switch 2 by a long shot. Like it runs fantastic on the Switch 2. But Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is almost a completely different game because of how much better it runs. And it's almost to the point where I feel like I want to like re-review the game, because I reviewed the Switch 1 version, gave it a good score, even though like the tech problems were really bad. But I maintain that, and I have maintained this since Scarlet and Violet came out, that underneath all of those awful tech problems, that they border on inexcusable. That's how bad they are.
Oh yeah, that was rough.
There's one of the best Pokemon games ever underneath all those problems. And it's like, I want to go through that again and see if it really does hold up to that level of scrutiny, or if maybe I'm like kind of, blowing it up in my mind of like, oh, it would be so good if not for these tech problems. I want to almost like, take the Pepsi challenge and go in and see like, all right, is it actually that good or am I like kind of like misremembering, or like, was I too like caught up in wishful thinking back when I reviewed it initially? I suspect that it was quite a good game. It's just, on the Switch One, not so much. But so that's actually what I've been spending the majority of my time when I'm not playing Mario Kart World on my Switch 2. But I've also been looking at other stuff. Played a little bit of Street Fighter 6. I'm excited to have a version of that on the go that isn't my Steam Deck, because the Steam Deck takes up so much space in my backpack that, it's going to be nice to, if I just am going to be traveling light. Like, I'm going on a trip this week, and I am excited to just bring my Switch 2, because it's a much lighter, it's a much easier proposition to just bring your Switch 2 than it is like your Steam Deck, your Switch, your laptop, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
I'm excited for that, but also I've been playing Fast Fusion. I've been, which, is a more traditional, straightforward kind of racing game than Mario Kart World. But I'm having a good time with that. There's plenty of awesome third-party games, but the problem is, I don't know if you saw those headlines of like, third-party games are not selling particularly well outside of Cyberpunk 2077 on the Switch 2.
Well, and I don't even know if it is selling well as much as it was the best selling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because like the early sales, Matt Piscatella over at Circana, previously NPD, said that the sales were like Mario Kart World #1, unsurprisingly. These are physical sales, by the way. Mario Kart World, Cyberpunk 2077, and then Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 edition. And I could see why that is. Like, there's multiple reasons. Like, the first reason I would say is like, a lot of these games are older ports. They like, I think a lot of like people who bought the Switch 2 right at launch, like lined up at midnight, are probably the more dedicated gamers, and they have probably played games like Cyberpunk or Yakuza 0 if they wanted to on like PlayStation or Xbox. And so I think that that's hurting it. Also, there were no early reviews, so like, I don't know about you, but when a game came out on multi-platforms and it was a Switch 1 game, I was like, should probably wait for a review for that specific platform. Otherwise, who knows how it's going to run. I think there's more confidence instilled in the Switch 2 by everybody at this point in terms of like performance, but it's still a wild card, right? Like, you don't know, like, and from what I've heard, all these games run well, but like, does Sonic X Shadow Generations, is that going to perform well on Switch 2? And it does if you switch it over to performance mode, I found, but there was that uncertainty for a lot of people. So I think a lot of people were just like, oh, I'll just get Mario Kart World and then wait to hear after some reviews come out, or, watch some YouTube videos of the performance or whatever. So I think there's multiple reasons for why they're not selling so well, but there are a lot of great third-party games. And, Civ 7 is a great example of that, using the mouse controls and everything. But yeah, I'm really enjoying my time with the Switch 2. I'm just waiting for, the next big games like Donkey Kong or like Pokemon Legends ZA or Metroid Prime 4. Those are going to be the ones that I'm like, really get me full on into like the Switch 2 era. Right now it just feels like, all right, I have this device that can play a bunch of other games that I've already played, but also Mario Kart World. Like, it's just basically a Mario Kart World device if and I guess Pokemon Scarlet and Violet at this point. But I think
they renamed them to Pokemon Functional and Working now.
That would be the perfect name for the next gen.
It's got a picture of that stupid motorcycle looking Pokemon, but he's got like a thumbs up and a bandage on his head. Like, it fixed me. I'm okay now.
Yeah, so I'm very much enjoying the Switch 2 so far, but it's like, all right, just in that waiting period for more games to come out. And, in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or whatever it is, we'll have Donkey Kong Bonanza. So that is looking fantastic.
Really excited for that.
After that direct, I am full steam ahead for that game.
Absolutely.
And of course, I'm playing what I know you guys are also playing. We're all playing this. It was like one of the first things we all downloaded, which was, of course, say it with me,
Anime
Resident
Girl Puzzle.
Evil 6. Yeah, Resident Evil 6 on the Switch too.
6.
Is this is this a cloud version, or is this like a native?
No.
Okay. How's it?
I don't think I knew it was on Switch to begin with.
Yeah, I bought it a while ago because it's the one like modern Resident Evil that I didn't finish.
The one that got away.
I played like half it. The one that got away, and I was always like, if I have it on Switch, I'll beat it. And I played through Chris's campaign a couple years ago on Switch 1. And I was like, you know what? I wonder if this feels better on Switch 2. And it does, actually. Like, it does look and run a little better. And I was like, do I just want to play this game just for the completionist in me? You know, it's like it's the weakest Resident Evil, arguably, but it's like it's the one that I haven't checked off. So I played a little bit of Resident Evil 6, and it was pretty good.
Are you gonna stick with it?
I mean, it's not a good game, but it runs pretty good, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's like, do you think you're gonna stick with it? Are you gonna finish it? Are you gonna finish it before Requiem? Because you need to know the story.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I'm jumping back and forth between Yakuza 0 and that, but much primarily more Yakuza 0 because I never played it.
Oh, I was just
Oh,
about to say.
nice, great game.
Yeah, I was like, this will be a great excuse to play it on my new system. Like, this will be, yeah. So I'll try
I think
to get
that's
through that
pretty
first, I think.
securely my favorite Yakuza game.
Yeah, it was actually you telling me that kind of made me go like, maybe this is a good time to, because I'm not gonna, if I'm being honest, I'm not gonna go back and play the PlayStation version or whatever. Like but if I have a new system, you know, it's like you kind of have that fire under you to maybe do it.
You reviewed Yakuza Pirates in Hawaii or whatever it's called. Pirate Yakuza,
Like a Dragon.
Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Yeah. So you're well familiar with Majima. And he is the star.
Well, that version of him, at least.
He is the star
like
of Yakuza 0, by far.
He's pretty great in that game.
Yeah, I mean, he's an amnesiac in Pirate Yakuza, so like I kind of don't know him, you know? Like I know a new version of him, sort of, so I'm excited to meet him.
I'm assuming his personality traits are very similar to how he is in every game but 0.
I'm sure, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Can I say, as we wind down, I had a Nintendo commercial moment this weekend where I was on a date and we went to Barnes & Noble's to do some book shopping, and I brought my Switch 2 because my date had not seen it, and I was like, oh, we can play Mario Kart. So we went
Barnes & Noble.
At Barnes & Noble, yeah, hell yeah. and we went to the little Starbucks. It's like in every Barnes & Noble. We sat down in one of the tables, popped up little Switch 2, got to use the little kickstand. First time I've gotten to use the kickstand, and played some like Knockout Tour, split screen. And as we're playing, we're having a good time. And I guess business was slow because all of a sudden I feel a presence behind me, and I turn around and the like elderly barista is standing behind us just watching. And I don't know how long he was there, but the moment that I acknowledge his existence, he looks down and goes, "Is that the Switch 2?" And I'm like,
I knew it.
Yeah. And he's like, "Is that Mario Kart?" And I'm like, "Yep." And then he just folds his arms and just looks very quizzical. And he goes, I've heard about this. And I didn't know if he meant like, have you heard about Mario Kart specifically or the Switch specifically or both as a package? And then he proceeded to stand there for like the next 5. Like I thought we were done. Like, oh yeah, it's Switch, and then he did not leave for like the remainder of our race. and
Really, third wheel.
And I had the moment of like, this is a Switch 2 commercial. This is every dumb Switch 2 commercial of like the people using a Switch 2 in a place that would seem probably improbable or like not likely, and then like a stranger just being way too interested in what the people playing the Switch are doing, and you go like, nobody does that. And
you're like,
well,
yeah, is this the Switch 2? Yeah, the all-in-one entertainment console from Nintendo.
Pretty much, like just shy of him asking like, and how much did you pay for that?
Oh, a very low price of $499.99.
And then he takes off running in the other direction. But yes, I thought I'd share that. Unfortunately, I didn't capture it, so I cannot send it to Nintendo's marketing department.
Now, question though, is there a follow-up date?
Yes. Yeah, there'll be a follow-up date.
Yes.
That was the conditions of winning.
Join you guys again.
Should I go back there and invite him? Do you think he's the reason that there's a follow-up date?
Yeah.
This guy has some impressive technology. The barista is blown away.
Man, I gotta hang with this guy. He get random strangers talking to me about
that really is though the Switch 1 commercial where they had the infamous rooftop party where the person brought, I guess, was it Mario Odyssey or whatever?
Yeah.
I brought their single-player game.
Yeah. Hey, everybody can watch me play video games.
That reminds me, I wrote a feature a couple years ago where I went through every Nintendo Switch commercial, and I wanted to see every instance of a Switch being used outside of the house and did a checklist of, have I actually done this with my Switch? And like did a tally of like, have I played it on a rooftop? Have I played it at the gym? Have I played it at a weird music recital?
This is just green eggs and ham.
You could say
Should have
that.
made it rhyme.
I recommend everybody go look that up because I might have to do an updated version for the Switch 2 in like a year or
that'd be
two when
fun.
they make new commercials.
I have not played Game Chat with Paul Rudd.
Well, there's still time. He's
Okay.
pretty easy to, pretty easy guy to get a hold of. But yeah, that will do it this week for the Game Informer show. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. One more time, I'll reiterate, we've got our first issue of the magazine since we came back coming out. You can go to gameinformer.com/subscribe to get your magazine subscription. It's a wonderful way to support us as well as support St. Jude. Borderlands 4 blazing on the cover, and who knows what we're going to have on our next cover coming up. We know. But you got to... Yeah,
you can't share it yet.
Put your hand
It's a
in.
secret.
Yeah, it's a big secret, at least for the next several weeks or so. But promise is a good one, and the only way you're going to find out is if you get a magazine subscription, darn it. But yes, we will be back next Thursday with another episode. We will also, you can follow us on various social media channels such as Twitch. We're streaming again, twitch.tv/Game Informer. I was streaming FBC Firebreak last week. We'll probably stream something this week. I'm probably doing Death Stranding maybe, actually, now that I think about it. That might be a good one.
Oh, you should. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and of course, we'll be relaunching Replay in the near future, so keep an eye out for that.
So excited.
Otherwise, yes, very excited. And of course, you can find us individually on social media as well. You can find me on Blue Sky at Marcus Stewart 7, which is the number 7. You can follow Kyle at Kyle M. Hilliard, I believe, still.
Just Kyle Hilliard. Yeah, drop
just
the M for Blue Sky. Yeah.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
able to grab Kyle without the M. It was very exciting.
Get that M out of there. And you can also follow Brian Shea at Brian P. Shea. The P is still there for you?
Yeah, I focused more on synergy across platforms. I did have the opportunity to get Brian Shea, and it was like, nope, it's already been well established that is my handle, so I'm going to keep it.
Can't spell Brian Shea without a P.
That's
That's
true.
what I always say.
Yes. And until next time, thank you so much for watching and listening. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube as well. You can watch the video version of this podcast every week, youtube.com/Game Informer. And we will see you next Thursday with another edition of the Game Informer Show. Bye-bye.